and fun and playful. And then, of course, he found me on Instagram and started messaging me. And he's like, what a shock. Of course, he wants more. And so then, you know, there's been a conversation that's gone on since then. And it's been super fun and flirty. And my partner's watching the whole thing going on, going, ooh, this is going to be fun. So, you know, we have the choice to all like omit information.
Welcome to another episode coming at you from ChooseYourRelationships.com, author of Love Can't Wait, which can be found on Amazon.com. Like, share this episode, and I appreciate it if you left me a 5-star review in iTunes. I want to hear what you think. I want to hear what you think about the topics and the guests that I bring on. And I want to hear your feedback. You know, I appreciate that. So, with that being said, today I have my first returning guest to the show. She has a very unique approach to dating and relationships. She has a Amazon best-selling book called Create a Healthy Romantic Relationship. And she has a very unique approach to dating, relationships, very holistic approach, very uncommon approach. She has a background in skincare, wellness. She's an executive coach. She works with high-profile clients. So if you want to learn how to have better relationships, if you want to learn how to get the best out of your relationships, if you want to learn how to become the best you can be with the person that you meet, that you engage with, and develop a winning mindset and kick the limiting mindset and limiting beliefs, get rid of them, release those bad habits and replace them with good habits, this is the episode for you. My special guest today is Harmony Woodington. Welcome back to the show. So yeah, you know, I wanted to talk about open relationships, and it seems to be a big talking point, at least online, I think. And I don't necessarily know how it got started, but I think there was an article that came out on maybe the New York Times a couple of months ago, and from that article, it just kept, spinning, and more people started talking about it. And, based on my experience, everyone has their own, version of what open relationship is. So what do you think, in your opinion, what's the open relationship to you?
What's really interesting is that I think this topic has become significantly more potent and discussed a lot more since the first lockdown as a result of so many relationships ending in the pandemic, right? And it really forced a lot of people coming out of their relationships to stop and go, do I want to do things the way I've been doing it my whole life, the way my parents and grandparents and great-grandparents did it? Or maybe I'm going to spend some time really thinking and analyzing and maybe look at what else there is out there. And it's really fascinating because I've seen a lot more openness and a lot more people shifting and experimenting and really analyzing, what's been done before, because we were locked down for a good chunk of time. So it allowed for a lot of thought and analyzing and processing and maybe thinking, this world is going to be very different coming out of this lockdown. So maybe I should change some things too, right?
Yeah.
So when I talk about open or poly relationships, the definition really is unique to the individual, and it's not something that I dictate to anyone. It can look like anything from when one of us is out of the country, it's game on. So hall pass when we're on vacation, to we are actively with other people and we openly communicate about those interactions. And what the communication looks like is unique to the individual. I think when it becomes more polyamory is when you have ongoing relationships and love with multiple people. And that can look like people are living in their individual spaces to people actually do live in a group in the same household and have rules and boundaries and guidelines, but it is more of a group of people that are existing together, collaborating and supporting each other.
Yeah, I always looked at it like I don't want to start anything that I can't manage. That, in other words, I want it to last for a long time. I don't want it to end. That's how I always looked at it. So I
respect that. I totally respect that. And I think the way that you manage that, first of all, is to look at the anchor partnership with your core partner and make sure that that is thriving. And if that is thriving and you have a desire to add to it, then you can. And then secure that next relationship and make sure that you are managing everything really well with the two that you have. And if you feel like you still need more, then add to it. But it really is a one at a time. And with my partner, he can't handle any more than me and one more. 2 is his max. He doesn't have a good memory. He doesn't have a lot of spare time. There's multiple factors. And so if the 2 of us are saying, you know what, you're not giving us enough attention, so you don't get to add to this, then 2 is his capacity, right? Whereas with me, I literally could go as far as having 1 for each day of the week because I have a really good memory. I have a lot of capacity for love, and I'm very capable of managing multiple relationships and making sure that everyone feels loved and honored and gets lots of attention without there being any lack. So you've got to really, just like every aspect of your life, integrate things one thing at a time.
Yeah, I totally agree. For me, I say no more than 3 people. No more than 3 people.
3 in total, or you and 3 more?
3 in total.
3 in total. Okay, cool. Got it.
It's 3. That's because I look at it like, I have a hard time as things are today. So I'm like, it's no way. Now when I was in my 20s, I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was I was in the Navy. I was basically trying to figure things out as I went. But I didn't have a lot of responsibilities when I was in my 20s as well.
Yeah.
So so when you don't, most of the time when you're in your 20s, when you're just figuring things out, most people have a lot of time because they don't really know what they're doing. They're trying to figure out things as they go. But as you get older and you take on more responsibilities and you got things to do, especially if you have, a family or whatever, So it just depends on where you are in the stage of your life,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being a practitioner and having clients that are scheduled, it makes it really easy for me to utilize that schedule to also schedule my dates and my time with my partners. And also there's regularity. So I do have one that I see every Friday, and I spend the night and then I'll be there, until probably mid-afternoon on Saturday. And that's the time that we've carved out for each other. So it's routine and everybody knows that's what Harmony's doing Friday and Saturday. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and also, my son is grown up and out of the house. That being said, when he was living with me, I did open up my relationship and start seeing people when my son was here, and there was open communication about all of that. And I think that I was setting a really beautiful, healthy example, because my son was actually getting to see what all of that looked like and what the communication looked like between my anchor partner, Scott, and I, and how we managed our relationships with other people. And there was a lot of laughter and a lot of open communication. And my son would go and open the door and welcome whoever it was that was coming over. And, you know, he was super chill. And so there was no hangups, there was no shame, nothing was being hidden or anything like that. And my son has a very healthy relationship of his own, and he's engaged to be married, and he's monogamous. He's fiercely monogamous. And I think having that open dialogue allowed for him to be able to look at different types of relationships, ask himself what he wanted, and then make that decision. Mom, I know that as far as I'm concerned, I only want to be with one person. And I was like, dope. I'm so happy for you. I'm glad you figured out what's right for you. Because what matters to me is that each and every one of you who's listening to this can really have an open mind and look at all of the different expressions of love that have existed through all of human history and question what's right for you. And then ultimately come to that conclusion of what is going to make you the happiest.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's a lot of kids, you know, I know women, well, men and women that have kids, you know, and they kind of keep things a secret to their kids. I say, hey, they're going to find out.
Exactly. They're not stupid. They know what's going on.
Yeah.
They absolutely do.
Especially if they have parties at the house. Look, they're going to find out.
After bedtime, like as if the kids aren't sneaking downstairs.
And all these strange people downstairs. Come on.
Right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I mean, what if somebody gets up in the middle of the night to get a drink or a snack or something and runs into one of the kids? Like, you just never know. You know what I mean? And I just don't think you're serving anyone, and really the child's development, helping them to be fully exposed to everything that does exist. I have a friend who actually was raised with parents that were poly through his whole childhood. And he's really grateful for the fact that his parents were open about how they existed and that they did have open communication. And he's a lot more free throughout his life in the way that he expresses his love as a result of having that example. Whereas my relationship example was very disconnected and very dysfunctional. And I had to look at what my parents had and go, well, I definitely don't want that. So what do I want? And then I had to reframe it and come up with something that was completely different for lack of a healthy model. So I wanted to give that to my son, that freedom, that communication, and, you know, really show him what can exist, and then ultimately tell him, I want you to do what makes you happy. And so he didn't have fear or trepidation about telling me that he's pansexual, which means that he loves everyone regardless of gender or identification. He's attracted to personalities, and that he is fiercely monogamous. And that's amazing. I celebrate that he figured that out at 17 years old.
Yeah, that's good. Early the better, because I think, you know, I grew up, my parents, you know, the traditional relationship, basically, you know, and I just knew, I didn't know that at 17, I didn't know if I wanted to have a marriage like that or a relationship like that. And then I went in the Navy at 19, and, you know, after like meeting people from all over the world and traveling and everything, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can be like them. And then I was like, you know, maybe they're better than me. I don't know. But, you know, I was like, I don't know, you know? And then when it was time for me to get married, I looked at it like, I can't approach it like my parents, because I'm not like my parents.
Yeah.
You know, my dad, he's a better man than me. He is. I mean, I'm not, maybe I'll get there, you know, at some point on his level or whatever, but I'm not there yet. At least I wasn't there in my 30s, because that's when I got married, right?
Got it.
I always looked at it like, look, I'm gonna just be honest, with her, my wife now, and I'm like, look, I don't necessarily know what's gonna happen while we're together, but I don't want to be a cheater. I don't want to be sneaking around at night like some guys that I know. I don't want to be doing any of that stuff, And she understood where I was coming from, and that meant a lot to me that she understood that, because I know a lot of couples that, they sneak around, they go on vacations, So I'm like, I never wanted to approach it like that, because there's some people that, I'll go to parties every once in a while, and they'll say stuff like, well, we want to, open our relationship up to other people because we lack the fire. And I'm like, I don't really think that's a good, I don't even think that's a good idea.
It does bring fire to the relationship. That the thing that's really important to acknowledge is that when you're with the same person all the time, those butterflies that you felt when you first were getting to know them, they kind of dissipate.
Oh, yeah.
The excitement of getting to know somebody new dissipates because you get to know that person. You're with them all the time. And think about food, for example. I love steak. I love filet mignon, okay? But I love filet mignon and appreciate it because I don't have it very often.
Yeah.
It's a special treat because, it's a very expensive cut of steak, even though it's like this big. It's like, right? So the thing that's important to look at is that if I was to have filet mignon every single night for the rest of my life, it would get boring. It absolutely would. And so when we allow things to open up and become more of an all-you-can-eat buffet, it allows for you to be able to get to know new people, to feel those butterflies, to feel that excitement, and to be in different energies with different minds in different worlds. And when you go back to the world that you have created with that beautiful anchor partner or core partner that you have, you actually appreciate it so much more. And competition becomes a thing. I'm not going to tell you that it's not a factor, because it really is. Men are competitive. They are.
Yeah.
And women can be competitive too. I like to know that I'm the best that my partner's with. And, he likes to know that he's the best that I'm with. And that competitive nature actually keeps our focus on each other because we want to keep that number one spot. Right. And so it really does light the fire, and those butterflies and the excitement and the time out from each other, getting a break from each other, experiencing being with different people and coming back and going, there's nobody that I love snuggling in bed with than you, because you snuggle with others, but then you snuggle with your core partner and you're like, nobody fits me like you do. Like, you're just the most comfortable human in the world, and this is where I want to be. So that comparison is actually healthy. The butterflies getting to have that again is healthy. The competitive nature being kicked in is actually healthy. What's really important to understand that you want to focus on more than anything else is to make sure before you add to the picture that your core partner is satisfied. That they are getting everything that they want from you, and they're happy to have you go out because they're like, actually, you know what? I need a night away from you. Go away. Like, I need some space. You know what I mean? Then it's beautiful because you're each getting a time out, and then you're happy to see each other again.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Something that happened probably like 3 months ago. Speaking of the Navy, 3 months ago, this guy was introduced to me by another guy that was in the Navy, and he lived here, right near, probably like the next town over from where I live in Charlotte, right? And I didn't know this guy. All I knew, he was in the Navy. We were on the same base at the time. And my buddy was like, hey, I want you to meet this guy. He's a great guy or whatever, and his wife or whatever. I said, okay, cool, whatever. So, cause and then time went by, and I was like, he called me again and said, hey man, I want you to introduce this guy, whatever, So he gave me the phone number. I called the guy, and come to find out, they live 25 minutes away, right? So we said, hey, let's meet up at the local bar, right? I said, all right, cool. I'll drive down there, So I met them, and his wife looked familiar.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what happened is I was walking in the restaurant. I was like, oh, that lady looks familiar. So but I had to go to the restroom, right? So when I came back, I was like, oh, okay, here you go, whatever. I had a picture of him, but not the wife, right? So come to find out, that's his wife. So I'm like, wait a minute, where did I meet this woman at? And come to find out, they're in an open relationship.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that up front, right? So after I got to know them, we hit it off because we have a lot in common. We used to be in the Navy or whatever. And then his wife, she likes me, whatever. I said, okay, cool, whatever. So he, this is the funniest thing. So after about, I don't know, maybe a month of like texting, calling each other, he was like, my wife wants to, how did he say it? My wife wants to see you. I'm like, what do you mean? And he was like, you know what I mean? We talked about this. We talked, we didn't like go into details or whatever. We didn't pick a day and time, do anything. But he's like, you know what I mean? So like, okay, I'll think about it. Whatever. So probably a day or two went by, and I said, okay, let's just see what happens. You can come over here, I'll come over your house or whatever. I said, okay, you come over our house. I said, okay, whatever. All right, so I went over there and everything was cool. But I think his wife remembered where we met. I remember where we met now. She has a twin sister. This is crazy. I used to talk to the sister like, God, it's like 2005.
Wow.
You talked to her twin sister like 2005. And let me tell you how I kind of figured it out. Because she said something that she said her grandmother lived in an area called Gastonia. That's when I was like, oh no. Oh no. So that's when I was like, I couldn't put two and two together. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's her, whatever. And I think she kind of figured it out, but I was like, nah, I'm not, it's okay. It's not a big deal. That was a long time ago. So this is why sometimes I think, if you try to hide things, sometimes it usually comes out, because you just never know. Sometimes.
In ways you do not expect it.
Exactly.
I had something happen last weekend. I went all the way out to a town that is more than an hour away and went to help out a friend of mine because we're co-authoring a book together, and he was working at the Women's Show because it's Women's Day today. Happy International Women's Day. And so he came, got to the booth. He was like, there's some people here that know you. And I was with my man, Scott. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, those boys, couple Boozeray, they know you. They said that you used to live together. And I was like, what? And so I went and looked, and I was like, yeah, I didn't actually live with them. They actually came from Israel, and they became salesmen, and they were all in a house together. But one of them ended up dating the woman who lived in the upper part of the house and I lived in the basement suite. And so I saw them a lot because I lived in the house. And one of those boys back in the day, about exactly 10 years ago, I hooked up with. And so he recognized a picture of me that was at the table and came over and talked to my friend about me and wanted to know what my relationship situation was. So clearly he wanted to revisit that, right?
Yeah.
And when he saw me arrive at the show, he actually came over and said hi to me. And he was like, how long has it been? And how are you doing? And you look amazing. And how are you doing it? And all the rest of that. And so we had a little chat and he's like, seriously, how long has it been? And I'm like, 10 years. It's been exactly 10 years since we've seen each other. And he's like, cool, you've suspended time. I don't understand what's going on. And my partner, after I finished saying hi to him, was like, so how was your chat? And I was like, oh, it was good. He's like, so are you going to revisit that? And I was like, I might, but there needs to be a conversation because it's been 10 years. And I don't know where this boy's head is at. But I remember last time, I'm just going to say it was lame. It was not memorable. Yeah. So, but what was really cool was that could have been a really bad situation where I had actually been blindsided by somebody from my past if I wasn't open with my partner about my life and what's gone on, and we weren't openly communicating with each other, right? Yeah. How do you deal with something like that? But because we're so open and we communicate with each other, it was not really an issue at all. And my partner was just going, so are you going to have a chat with him? Are you going to, and and it was more exciting and fun and playful. And then of course he found me on Instagram and started messaging me and he's like, what a shock. Of course he wants more. And so then, there's been a conversation that's gone on since then and it's been super fun and flirty. And my partner's watching the whole thing going on going, ooh, this is going to be fun. So, we have the choice to omit information, lie, try to keep things in the dark. But in all reality, when you don't see it coming, you're going to get blindsided. Yeah. And then because you omitted that information or lied and snuck around, your partner's going to feel betrayed. And that could be your undoing. And I don't ever want to do anything like that that's going to force me to carry a negative vibration in my own body because I've betrayed someone, or two, have to keep track of my lies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm like, hell this. That's too much work.
Too much work. It's way easier to remember the truth than it is a lie. Yeah. So I would rather just be upfront and honest. And it is my policy to communicate upfront about everything in advance before it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't tell the person after. If you think you're going to do something, if you are practicing an open relationship with your partner and you guys are new at it, make it your policy to communicate in advance of anything that goes on, even if it's a text, because it's 3:00 in the morning and you're out at the club. Because if that partner that's in bed at night doesn't see it, they'll wake up in the morning and they'll see the text and go, I got a heads up, right? Yeah. Instead of finding out about it the next day because nothing was said. Even that text, even though they didn't see it that night, makes a big difference. And it subdues or just cuts it off at the head when it comes to any feelings of betrayal or lies or anything, because it's not your fault your partner was sleeping. You gave the heads up. You know what I mean? So it's so important to be open and to communicate with each other, because I'm sure if we got a circle of people together, we could all share stories about being blindsided, by a past lover or something like that, and going, okay, this is going to be fun. In your situation, though, it was a twin, which is even more funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is I think I might have met her one time. I seen both of them together one time.
Oh, okay.
Crazy thing, And she used to talk about her sister all the time, about the guy that was in the Navy. I remembered all that stuff. After I got to know him, I'm like, oh, I remember now, and that was such a long time ago. That's the crazy thing.
So you knew of him and you didn't meet him till almost 20 years later.
Yeah. And he just got out the Navy 3 years ago. He did 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And they're cool people, though. They're so cool. You know?
That's exactly it. It's important to be able to, like really just explore and be open with things. And if you're jiving on the situation, cool. If not, whatever. I mean, you always have to meet and hang out and find out whether there's chemistry or not. So many people are dating online, and the big question is when do I meet someone? And some people want to rush and get it over and done with to see if there's chemistry so they don't waste time getting to know each other in advance. And some people want to vet in advance to find out certain information before they go out and meet a person. And I think it's really important when you first start having a conversation to figure out what the sensibilities of each other is so that you can meet, somewhere in the middle that's going to feel like a fit for both of you, because we don't want things to get dragged on for too long, but we also don't want to rush things because, let's be real, on the woman's side, we have to make sure we're safe.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, I have talked to men and they're just like, can we just go out for coffee? And I'm like, did you want to give me a chance to get to know you first, or even ask me what my sensibilities are, since I'm the woman and I have to think about my safety? Do you know what I mean? So it's the more we can openly communicate and figure that stuff out in advance, the more that we're setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah, I've had some crazy experiences with online dating as well. But that's a story for another day. That's a story for another day. You have to be, I'm saying, even you have to be careful, man or woman, but especially if you're a woman. Because, women can't handle themselves like a guy can. Most women, there's
in general, men are more powerful and stronger than women. It just is what it is. Most women are stronger in their lower body and men are stronger in their upper body, right?
Yeah.
So, and like my partner outweighs me by about 60 pounds. He can throw me around and it doesn't matter how much I fight, I'm gonna lose. And he never uses his strength against me, but it is a factor. And so as a woman, we've got to be smart. Like, meet a person at a coffee shop, go to a restaurant, go to a public place and get yourself there. Don't get picked up by the person because now they have all the power, right? Like, be smart, be savvy, and vet the person out. And even as a woman, if you decide to mix and mingle with a person, invite him to your house because it's your space. You're safe, you're in control. If you go to their space, you're now in their arena and they have all the control, right?
Yeah.
So you want to think about all of these things before you choose to make a much deeper, more intimate interaction, to vet that person and make sure they're safe. And I think every woman has a right to spend a certain amount of time online asking questions and getting to know a person to get an idea of what the person is like and if they feel inspired to want to meet them. And I know that men get frustrated with it because they don't have that same sense of feeling the need to feel safe before they go out. And so most of my guy friends complain about that. Why do women take so long? Why do I have to wait so long? Why can't we just go for coffee and figure it out? And I'm just like, you know what? The day you don't have dangly bits and you have to, be a woman and you have to figure out what it's like to be like literally sexually assaulted on the regular by men and you're constantly protecting yourself is the day you get an opinion with that. Okay? Yeah. Like, cater to a woman's sensibilities, because the safer you make her feel, the sooner she'll come out.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdos out here, man.
It's very true.
Yeah. So, hey, wait a minute. What's up with the book? The new book? Yeah, what's that about?
That one behind me? This one came out at the beginning of last year. Create a healthy romantic relationship. Amazing!
Yeah, hold on. I left a review on Amazon.
Oh, that's amazing! I'm so glad to hear that. So, I think the best person to probably talk about that would be you. What did you think about it?
I think it was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
It was pretty good. Yeah, I think I was kind of like, okay, this is really. I didn't think you was gonna go the direction that you went. I was like, this is really good. This is really good. Yeah. How is it doing?
Good. It's doing really well. It became a bestseller within 24 hours of being released.
That's good.
And it's been promoted on every podcast that I've been on. I've been selling it now at shows and conventions and stuff like that. I was recently interviewed by a romance writer helping people to understand character development based on how our mind is programmed, and sold books through the summit as well. So it's getting a lot of exposure, and really, I think when it came out was such perfect timing, because a lot of people really, are struggling to figure out how to do things differently. And in the book, I create a framework that allows for you to be able to understand the fundamental elements that you want to bring into a relationship to help it create success. And some of it is typically what you would think, and then some of it is actually flipping ideas on their heads and doing things very differently in ways that you wouldn't think about it. Particularly one that I can think of is trust. Eliminate trust is one of the ones in there. And most people, they force people to earn their trust before they get into a relationship, right? And I firmly disagree with that.
Me too.
When I tell you that you need to behave a particular way to earn my trust, I'm binding and controlling you and dictating your behavior.
Yeah.
And you're going to cater yourself to meet my sensibilities because I'm pretty and you want me to like you, right? That's a problem. And so if we can let go of the idea that people need to earn our trust, and we can see them as being perfect the way that they are, and decide whether that's a person we want to cherry pick, or if we want to keep them out of our arena, that is completely up to us. But we're not dictating a person's behavior. Free agency is incredibly important in relationships, right? So you want to bring a person into your life if you really love the way they are, and commit to letting them be who they are, and not forcing their expansion or forcing them to change or forcing them to meet you in any way to make you happy. You can communicate your desires and your wants and stuff like that, but it's important to let them have their free agency and do what they're going to do, and you make you happy. You resolve the emotions that are coming up if they do something that you don't like. You go out and meet the needs that you have with other people in your life, right? So it totally changes the whole idea that I need to trust anybody. It's just not a word in my vocabulary.
Yeah. So that's the book you were talking about when you were telling the story? I thought you were talking about a new book.
I do have another one coming out. The other one that's coming out is The Ultimate Guide to Overcome Anxiety. That book I'm co-authoring with Rick Fisher, who's a mineral specialist. So I'm tackling the emotional and psychological aspects of what creates anxiety and how to resolve it. And he's looking at the physiological elements that can create and also resolve anxiety. And the two of us coming together really do create a very outside of the box, process of understanding how it actually has a purpose to slow you down, to get you to pay attention to something that needs to be looked at, and how you can actually resolve it. And it's being vetted currently by about a dozen people, one of which who is a psychologist who actually had to give up her job because she was suffering with such extreme anxiety that she ended up on medication and just wasn't able to function in her work. So she's got pages of feedback from me. I'll be reconciling, and I'll be collecting all of that feedback and reconciling and getting their testimonials before the book is essentially published. So that's the one that's up and coming.
Yeah, let me know when it comes out.
I never stop. I just never stop. I've got a few books that are already published and a huge list of intellectual property that has as of yet to be published. This book behind me is actually going to be a series of 5 books. Okay. So I'm doing a relationship series. And just so you know, hint, hint, I haven't said this to anyone yet, the next book is going to be about sexuality.
Yeah, I kind of knew that was coming.
I talked about it a little bit.
I think it will be a natural progression. That's what I think.
Yeah, I have had people go, why didn't you dive more into sexuality? I wanted more. And I'm like, because that's the next book. And it is a whole book in itself. Let's be real.
Yeah.
If you're doing it justice, it should be a whole book.
Yeah. So where would people go if they wanted to work with you?
So if they want to work with me, they can absolutely click on harmonywhittington.com. I also have a Koji link attached to all of my social media, which actually allows for you to be able to sign up for notification for the anxiety book. You can also purchase my other books on there. I have some amazing deals on there as well. I have a half price deal saving you $150 on a session with me if you want to just experience one session. I have my relationship mastery code, which is currently $1,000 off, which is 7 sessions with me for you or a loved one. You can actually come together as a couple to do that work with me. So if you're looking to do the relationship work, that would be a beautiful program for the two of you guys to walk through. So I would check out the Koji link. I'll make sure that you get access to that so that you can go through and check out all the specials and everything that I have going on.
There you have it.